Chapter 48-49. A contracted beast was undoubtedly very important to every cultivator, but it was definitely not as important as their own life. When she saw how Bailey Hongzhuang valued Xiao He so much, she felt a little strange. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang turning around to leave, she realized that Bailey Hongzhuang had put on an act to divert their attention so that she could escape. When Jun Lingxuan and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, a trace of astonishment flashed across their eyes. However, they were not overly anxious because of this. This was because from the moment Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared here, it was already destined that she would not be able to escape. However, what happened next was beyond their expectations. Just as Xiao Shou was about to chase after Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly flashed and appeared behind Xiao Shou at lightning speed. A dagger appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and was placed horizontally across Xiao Shou's neck. Xiao Shou was equally shocked. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly make such a move. It was completely beyond her expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is your scheme. Xiao Shou cried out angrily and immediately struggled to break free from Bailey Hongzhuang's grip. Don't move. Bailey Hongzhuang held Xiao Shou hostage. If you dare to move again, I can't guarantee that my dagger won't disfigure your face. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Shou instantly stopped moving. To a woman, nothing was more important than her face. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't act recklessly. Xiao Shou's voice was filled with anxiety. She was really worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would go crazy and ignore everything. Let go of Xiao He. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned to Jun Lingxuan. Jun Lingxuan, Jun Zitao, and Su Minglei could not help but feel astonished when they saw this sudden change. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang, who was holding Xiao Shou hostage, Jun Lingxuan's eyes flashed with a complicated light. He did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so calm at a time like this and even come up with such a plan. It must be said that they had underestimated her. This Bailey Hongzhuang is much smarter than Xiao Shou. A voice rang in Jun Lingxuan's mind. It's a pity that she doesn't have a strong background. Otherwise, I wouldn't treat her like this. Jun Lingxuan shrugged his shoulders. He had never cared about relationships. Only benefits were the most important. He did not like Xiao Shou. Although there were many cultivators who pursued Xiao Shou, he felt that most of them did not admire Xiao Shou herself but her benefits and the Xiao family behind her. He was the same. If the Xiao family did not exist, any man would probably choose Bailey Hongzhuang before Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Shou, because not only was she beautiful, but she was also smart and even very capable. There was nothing to nitpick about. Bailey Hongzhuang, quickly let go of Miss Xiao. Jun Lingxuan's face revealed a nervous expression and hurriedly said, Let go of Xiao He first. Bailey Hongzhuang did not back down. All right then. Jun Lingxuan nodded. We'll let her go together. You have no right to negotiate with me. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flashed with a determined and ruthless light. If you don't let her go, I'll kill her directly. Chapter 48-50. Faced with Jun Shitao's threat, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold and her gaze was icy. It looks like you want Xiao Shou to die. Saying that, the dagger in her hand slit open Xiao Shou's skin and fresh blood immediately flowed out. Stop it! Xiao Shou quickly cried out when she felt the pain in her neck. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to kill her and her heart was filled with remorse. She had actually fallen into her hands. Young Master Jun, let go of Xiao He at once. Xiao Shou looked pleadingly at Jun Lingxuan. She felt that if this were to go on, Bailey Hongzhuang would very likely kill her. After all, to Bailey Hongzhuang, she was also an extremely loathsome existence. Hearing that, Jun Lingxuan nodded. All right, I'll let it go. In the next moment, Jun Lingxuan immediately released the rope that was tied around Xiao He's body. Immediately after that, Xiao He moved her body and quickly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. Master. The weak Xiao He came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. I'm sorry I've dragged you into this. Seeing that Xiao Hei had returned, Bailey Hongzhuang heaved a sigh of relief. Don't say such silly things, as long as you're all right. But looking at the extremely weak Xiao Hei before her, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Why are you so weak? There's something strange about that rope, it's been absorbing my blood essence. Xiao Hei said in a low voice. Ever since she had been tied up by that rope, she had discovered that the blood essence in her body was being continuously absorbed. Blood essence was extremely important to both cultivators and demonic beasts. Once the blood essence was absorbed, one's condition would quickly deteriorate. At this moment, more than half of the blood essence in her body had been absorbed, and she had naturally become like this. Absorbing blood essence? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows flashed with a trace of surprise. She really didn't expect that the rope would have such an effect. That's too vicious, Yi Futian said. White Lion's eyes also flashed with intense hatred. If they had not held Xiao Shou hostage, Xiao Hei would not have been able to live for long under the constant absorption of the rope. Even if Little Black was saved now, with its current weak state, if they couldn't find the essence blood, it would take a long time for it to recover. I'm afraid this has something to do with Jun Lingxuan's aura. White Dragon's voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. It seems that the aura on Jun Lingxuan's body isn't anything good. Since it needed to absorb a person's blood essence, it could be seen that the cultivation method it practiced was also vicious. There were many vicious cultivation methods in this world that relied on absorbing blood essence and finding a human cauldron to increase one's cultivation. Even though the rate of increase was very fast, it was extremely vicious and was despised by many. She never thought that Jun Lingxuan, a disciple of an aristocratic family, would have such an existence by his side. This isn't strange. White Dragon appeared to be relatively calm. Many people put on a dignified front, but they're not good people behind the scenes. Master, Xiao Hei has been reduced to this state. I'm afraid that she won't be able to recover in a short period of time. White Lion sighed. As a demonic beast, he understood the importance of blood essence to a demonic beast all too well. After losing so much blood essence, Xiao Hei's powers would decrease by a large amount. Bailey Hongzhuang, I've released your contracted beast. Now you should release Lady Xiao. Jun Lingxuan spoke. Chapter 48-51. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're too shameless. Xiao Sou's eyes were burning with rage. You're going back on your word. Xiao Sou, get this straight. I've never said that I'll let you go. How am I going back on my word? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. Besides, in terms of shamelessness, I can't compare to you. Sensing the chilling chill in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Shou couldn't help but turn her pleading gaze towards Jun Lingxuan. Now, they could only rely on Jun Lingxuan to think of a solution. She had already fallen into Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, and it was obvious that nothing they said would be of any use. Big brother, what should we do? Jun Zitao's brows furrowed. I didn't think that this Bailey Hongzhuang would be so smart. If we attack her directly, I'm afraid that Miss Xiao would lose her life. Bailey Hongzhuang was already a turtle in a jar, and it was impossible for her to escape. Now that Xiao Shou was being held hostage, they were instead restricted and didn't dare to make a move. Because once Xiao Shou lost her life, their alliance with the Xiao family would be affected. So no matter what, they must protect Xiao Shou. Young Master Jun, this Bailey Hongzhuang is extremely cunning. We have to think of a way. Su Minglei's face was just as ugly. He had been avoiding Bailey Hongzhuang's pursuit all this time, worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would come looking for him. It was only after he met Jun Lingxuan and the others that he felt completely relieved. After all, the grudges between the Jun family and the Di family were clear to all of them. It was because of this that he had told them about the conflict between himself and Bailey Hongzhuang, and had asked Jun Lingxuan and the others to make preparations. He was also puzzled by Jun Lingxuan's methods. Previously, when Xiao Hei had appeared, he hadn't noticed it at all. But Jun Lingxuan seemed to have predicted it and had immediately ordered them to attack a certain spot. Just like that, Xiao He had fallen into their hand. In fact, even if Xiao He had appeared right in front of him, he probably wouldn't have noticed it. After this incident, he felt that Jun Lingxuan was a terrifying existence. If he could, he only wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the situation before him now's an impossible. You've saved your life, Xiao He Hongzhuang, but you should know that she's in a very weak state. Jun Lingxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang firmly. As long as you let Miss Xiao go, I'll return this thing to you. How about it? As soon as he finished speaking, a transparent glass bottle appeared in Jun Lingxuan's hand. Inside the bottle was a bright red liquid. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. That's Xiao He's blood essence. Bai Shi hurriedly exclaimed. That's right. That's my blood essence. Xiao He's eyes burned with fury. Ever since she was born, she had never been treated like this. The feeling of having her blood essence drawn out was the most painful. If we retrieve this blood essence, will Xiao He's condition improve? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. She didn't know much about this. After all, there were some differences between monsters and cultivators. Yes. Bai Shi nodded. Xiao Shou had also heard the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and her two contracted beasts. She hurriedly said, Since that's the case, Bailey Hongzhuang, what are you still thinking about? Chapter 48-52. The moment she threw it out, Jun Lingxuan's voice rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang, that bottle is made of glass. Once it breaks, it will be useless. At the same time, Jun Zitao attacked Bai Shi. Seeing Jun Zitao's sudden attack, Bai Shi instinctively dodged. Seeing that the glass bottle was about to hit the ground, Bailey Hongzhuang moved and caught the glass bottle in her hand. Taking advantage of the time when Bailey Hongzhuang caught the glass bottle, Xiao Shou's inner energy surged and attacked Bailey Hongzhuang, then quickly retreated and escaped from Bailey Hongzhuang's grip. Miss Xiao, are you all right? Jun Lingxuan came to Xiao Shou's side, his handsome face revealing a look of concern. Xiao Shou nodded. Young Master Jun, thank you. She knew very well that if it wasn't for Jun Lingxuan, she would have died in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Miss Xiao, you're too polite. We're on the same side. As long as you're safe, I can rest assured. Jun Lingxuan's smile was still on his face, like a spring breeze. Looking at Jun Lingxuan like this, Xiao Shou's heartbeat suddenly sped up and her cheeks flushed red. Although she knew that Jun Lingxuan had feelings for her, she didn't take it to heart. Because all along, there had been many cultivators who pursued her. But after Jun Lingxuan saved her, her thoughts suddenly changed. It was only now that she realized that Jun Lingxuan was also so handsome. Most importantly, she was very important in his eyes. Jun Lingxuan also noticed the change in Xiao Shou's expression, and the complacency in his heart grew stronger. It seemed that his goal was about to be achieved. Xiao Shou obviously had feelings for him, so it was only a matter of time before he completely captured Xiao Shou's heart. He had to thank Bailey Hongzhuang. If it weren't for this, he probably wouldn't have been able to make Xiao Shou fall in love with him. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Xiao Shou had broken free from her control, she did not pay too much attention to it. She carefully checked the blood essence to make sure that there was nothing wrong with it before handing it over to Xiao He. Xiao He, this is for you. At this moment, Xiao He was simply too weak. Bailey Hongzhuang also hoped that she would be able to recover quickly after finding her blood essence. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to even stay awake in her current state. Thank you, Master. Xiao He accepted the blood essence. Bailey Hongzhuang, what's the use of saving your contracted beast? Today, all of you will die here. Jun Zitao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang coldly. He only felt that the other party's previous efforts were all useless. Their goal was never Xiao He, but Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared here, she was destined to never leave. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. The outcome hasn't been decided yet. Don't be happy too early. Haha, what did I hear? Jun Zitao laughed. You're just a mere 6-star light realm. You're dreaming if you want to escape from our hands. They had already learned about Bailey Hongzhuang's specific strength from Su Minglei. Even if Su Minglei repeatedly emphasized that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength was stronger than his, they would not put her in their eyes. No matter how strong he was, how strong could he be? Chapter 48-53. In the face of Jun Zitao's disdainful words, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm, her eyes clear and unwavering, as if she was not affected at all. Big brother, let me meet this Bailey Hongzhuang and see how capable she is to be so arrogant. Jun Zitao looked at Jun Lingxuan and suggested. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan frowned. Zitao, she's a little strange. Big brother, don't worry, there won't be a problem. Jun Zitao was full of confidence, and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in front of him. You're here, what are you afraid of? I'll take this opportunity to meet her and see what a cultivator from the lower realms is capable of. At this time, Su Minglei hurriedly spoke up. Second young Master Jun, this Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength is much stronger than her cultivation. It's not as simple as it looks. Jun Zitao frowned and waved his hand, his face full of displeasure. What? Do you think I'm not her opponent? Seeing this, Su Minglei forcibly swallowed back the words she wanted to say. Her expression was awkward, and she quickly waved her hand. Of course not. Since you're not, then why are you talking nonsense here? Jun Zitao asked. Su Minglei immediately fell silent. He was just being kind. He didn't expect to be reprimanded by Jun Zitao, and his heart was filled with anger. He was the young master of the Su family, and he was being treated like this by Jun Zitao. If it weren't for the fact that they had more people in the Jun family, he wouldn't have bothered with Jun Zitao. At this moment, he wished that Jun Zitao would die in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, who asked him to be so arrogant. He deserved it. Young Master Jun, since second young master wants to try, let him try. Xiao So smiled at Jun Zitao. With you here, nothing will happen. If you need help, we'll do it directly. Jun Lingxuan listened to Xiao Sou's words and nodded. Since you want to try, then go ahead. Jun Zitao had always listened to Jun Lingxuan. After seeing Jun Lingxuan agree, a smile appeared on his face. Thank you, big brother. Don't worry, I will definitely teach her a lesson and help my future sister-in-law vent her anger. Jun Zitao's face was filled with joy as he looked at Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan with an ambiguous gaze. As Jun Lingxuan's younger brother, he naturally knew what his elder brother was thinking. This trip to the immortal cloud mystic realm was a great opportunity for him to pursue Xiao So. After what happened just now, he believed that Xiao So would definitely become his future sister-in-law. Suddenly hearing Jun Zitao's words, Xiao So was slightly taken aback. Her face quickly flushed red and her eyes were filled with shyness. Jun Lingxuan smiled and explained, Miss Xiao, my younger brother doesn't think before he speaks. Please don't take it to heart. Xiao So nodded her head shyly, but her heart was filled with disappointment. However, Jun Lingxuan's next words made her happy once again. Of course, if all of this can become a reality, it would naturally be the happiest thing for me. As he said that, Jun Lingxuan sized up Xiao Sou's expression. Feeling Jun Lingxuan's gaze, Xiao So became even more shy, not knowing what to say. Jun Lingxuan saw that he had achieved his goal and did not say anything more. He understood that for a woman to accept him, it would naturally take some time. Chapter 48-54. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ambiguous relationship between Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan, and a trace of ridicule surfaced in her eyes. From the looks of it, Xiao So and Jun Lingxuan were bound to become a couple in the future. With such a fickle character, she had actually said that she liked Beichen. How astonishing! Master, I had thought that Xiao So was very infatuated. Back then, she had said that she liked Beichen. How long has it been? It's only been a few months and she's already fallen in love with someone else. TSK, the speed at which she changes her heart is really extraordinary. White Lion's gaze fell upon Xiao Shou. He had always hated Xiao Shou, especially her arrogance and unreasonable behavior. However, he had always thought that she was acting this way because she liked Bei Chen. Now, it seemed that this woman's love was really cheap. Even Xiao He, who was busy recovering, could not help but speak up. Jun Lingxuan, you'd better think carefully. If you marry a woman like this in the future, she might cheat on you when you're not paying attention. That would be fun. Xiao Shou and Jun Lingxuan, who had originally been a couple, had an ugly look on their faces when they heard Xiao He and White Lion's words. Xiao Shou's face turned ashen and the shyness on her face instantly disappeared. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes full of anger. As a woman, the most taboo thing was to be fickle. Bailey Hongzhuang's two contracted beasts had put such a label on her head. She would never be able to clear her name. Bailey Hongzhuang, what nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Shou's expression was ferocious. If you dare to speak nonsense again, I'll kill you immediately. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang laughed softly. What? Did we hit the nail on the head? That's why he jumped up so anxiously? Actually, you don't have to be too angry. We all know the truth. Do you think Jun Lingxuan doesn't know? Xiao Shou was taken aback and she quickly turned to look at Jun Lingxuan. Young Master Jun, I am not like what she said. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly, the smile on his face unchanged. I understand. However, in the face of Jun Lingxuan, Xiao Shou could not help but worry. She didn't understand if Jun Lingxuan was trying to comfort her or something. After all, men were always very concerned about such things. At the thought of this, Xiao Shou's hatred towards Bailey Hongzhuang deepened. She must skin Bailey Hongzhuang alive and let her die in excruciating pain. Jun Lingxuan's eyes darkened. He naturally knew that Xiao Shou was very infatuated with Di Beichen, and the speed of her change was indeed very fast. However, he didn't mind, because the one he cared about was never Xiao Shou herself. Hence, he didn't take Bailey Hongzhuang's words to heart. Miss Xiao, you don't have to get angry over her. I'll go teach her a lesson now and make her kneel in front of you and kowtow to admit her mistakes. Jun Zitao's face was ashen. His big brother was finally going to be together with Xiao Shou. He didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang's two contracted beasts would suddenly say such a thing. It was obvious that it had caused some damage. All right. Xiao Shou nodded, her eyes sinister and vicious. I want her to die here today. In the next moment, Jun Zitao took a step forward and walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'll give you a chance to fight one-on-one. Show me what you've got. Chapter 48-55. Master, don't worry. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was instructing Baisher, Jun Zitao's figure flashed and turned into an invisible ray of light that attacked directly. Seeing that Jun Zitao had launched a sneak attack on her, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned and a sharp light appeared in her beautiful eyes. The next moment, the mind-severing sword in her hand stabbed violently in a direction without hesitation. Jun Zitao did a backflip and retreated a few steps. When his figure could be seen clearly again, he was looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with an ashen face. Jun Zitao had always been very confident in his figure. He was very good at speed. Usually, when he launched a sneak attack, the average person would not be able to react in time. However, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to detect his location. His eyes were suddenly filled with astonishment. You can actually detect me? What's so strange about detecting you? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her eyes were cold. It was true that the naked eye could not detect Jun Zitao's true location. However, she could lock on to him based on her aura. Moreover, after so many years of fighting, she had already developed a combat awareness. She did not need to think at all and could subconsciously determine the opponent's location. This combat awareness could not be described with words, but it really existed. Most importantly, it was very accurate. At least you have some skills. Jun Zitao chuckled. He still did not put Bailey Hongzhuang in his eyes. However, this is still not enough. Vigorous power erupted from Jun Zitao's body, and a fiery red light appeared between his hands. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang felt the surrounding temperature suddenly rise. Fire attribute. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately knew Jun Zitao's attribute. The fire attribute was undoubtedly an extremely strong attribute in combat. In the next moment, Jun Zitao directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. The scorching temperature seemed to be able to burn the air. Jun Zitao waved his hands and a fireball attacked directly. Once the fireball touched the body, it would undoubtedly burn. After Xiao Sou saw Jun Zitao's method, a smile appeared on her face. It would be best to burn all of Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes. That would be interesting. She wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to die in humiliation. This was undoubtedly an excellent method. Thinking of this, Xiao Sou looked at Jun Zitao with satisfaction. Although the D family had stolen the limelight during the previous pill refining competition, it seemed that things weren't as bad as his father had thought. Although the Jun family's strength was slightly weaker than the D family's, as long as they worked together, they would still be an extremely powerful force. Bailey Hongzhuang also realized the purpose of Jun Zitao's actions. Her eyes were filled with disgust, and her face was even colder. Shameless. However, Jun Zitao did not care about Bailey Hongzhuang's insults at all. He just wanted to tease Bailey Hongzhuang. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately retreated. In order to avoid the flames, she appeared to be very flustered. Looking at this, Jun Zitao could not help but sneer. Su Minglei, I haven't seen you for a few years. I see that your combat power has greatly decreased, right? You can't even deal with this kind of strength? Chapter 48-56. He originally wanted to remind Jun Zitao, but after hearing Jun Zitao's ridicule, he decided not to say anything else. After experiencing the previous incident, Su Minglei naturally understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was an extremely intelligent person. Perhaps she was pretending to be weak in order to lure Jun Zitao into a trap. For someone as annoying as Jun Zitao, it would be great if they could teach him a good lesson. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but frown after noticing the situation. As far as I know, Su Minglei's strength has reached the pinnacle of the Starlight Realm. How could he not defeat Bailey Hongzhuang? Didn't Su Minglei say that Bailey Hongzhuang's contracted beast is also at the pinnacle of the Starlight Realm? Su Minglei naturally has no problem dealing with Bailey Hongzhuang. He knew that he would be at a disadvantage previously. It must be because Bailey Hongzhuang and her contracted beast attacked together. Xiao Sou answered without hesitation. In her opinion, there was no other possibility other than this. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. I'm afraid so. Jun Zitao forced Bailey Hongzhuang to retreat again and again. She was battered and exhausted, and the complacent expression on his face was getting stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you want to kowtow and admit defeat? This way. I can give you a quick death. Jun Zitao mocked. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be bothered with him. Dream on. Since that's the case, I'll show you my true power. At the next moment, the energy in Jun Zitao's body surged wildly. It was obvious that he wanted to severely injure Bailey Hongzhuang. However, just as Jun Zitao was preparing his move, Bailey Hongzhuang's aura suddenly changed from the initial Starlight Realm to Starlight Realm Level 8. Jun Zitao couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. It was obvious that he couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation had improved so much in such a short period of time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not give him any time to consider. Her figure flashed, and she disappeared from the spot like a ghost. In the next moment, her attack landed heavily on Jun Zitao's body. Jun Zitao's figure suddenly flew out, but Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was even faster. Her figure flashed and appeared behind Jun Zitao. She sent out a flying kick, ruthlessly kicking the opponent's chest. The thoughts-severing sword mercilessly stabbed towards Jun Zitao's chest. She wanted to kill this damned bastard. Seeing the sharp sword approaching him, Jun Zitao's face turned pale and he quickly reached out to block it. A blood-curdling scream came out of Jun Zitao's mouth as a severed arm fell to the ground. His arm blocked Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts-severing sword from attacking his chest. However, the thoughts-severing sword was so sharp that it directly cut off his arm. Jun Lingxuan had already prepared to rescue Jun Zitao when he discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had skyrocketed. However, it was only now that he realized that Jun Zitao had unknowingly distanced himself from them during the previous battle. It was only at this moment that he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's previous weakness was all an act. It wasn't that she couldn't defeat Jun Zitao, but that she wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to kill him. Damn it! Jun Lingxuan cursed. He didn't expect that his negligence would cause such a thing. Chapter 48-57. Among everyone present, only Su Minglei did not find this situation strange. In fact, he was a little happy. A damned guy like Jun Zitao deserved to be taught a lesson. It was just that he could not express this joy on the surface. Bailey Hongzhuang did not stop attacking after chopping off Jun Zitao's hand. She attacked again with the silk cutter sword. Bailey Hongzhuang, how dare you! Jun Lingxuan roared. His eyes were bloodshot and looked as if they would pop out of their sockets at any moment. Jun Zitao was his younger brother. The two of them had always been on good terms since they were young. If Jun Zitao died in front of him, he would definitely not be able to accept it. However, in the face of Jun Lingxuan's roar, Bailey Hongzhuang acted as if she did not hear it. Not only did the sword in her hand not slow down, but it also sped up. She was filled with disgust towards Jun Zitao. Naturally, she could not wait to make this guy disappear from this world. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's fast sword, Jun Zitao's eyes flashed with intense fear. He had never felt that death was so close to him. Thinking of this, he forced himself to retreat. His legs felt numb and he did not have any strength left. However, his hands desperately crawled backward. The silk cutter sword stabbed out and directly pierced Jun Zitao's body, making a dull sound. Ah! Jun Zitao screamed. At the same time, Jun Lingxuan came to his side. He waved his right hand and attacked Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. Seeing Jun Lingxuan appear, Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely fast. Her figure flashed, and she took a few steps back to avoid his attack. I didn't expect Jun Lingxuan's strength to have reached the Nebula Realm. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. She had always had a bad impression of Jun Lingxuan. Only when the other party attacked at this moment did she realize that as the young master of the Jun family, his strength was extremely powerful. As expected, none of the outstanding descendants of the great clans were easy to deal with. After Jun Lingxuan rescued Jun Zitao, he found that Jun Zitao's condition was extremely bad. Not only did he lose an arm, but Bailey Hongzhuang's sword had also pierced through his body. If he hadn't been fast enough, his heart would have been pierced. Even so, Jun Zitao was unable to move at this moment. "Shitao, how are you?" Jun Lingxuan asked worriedly. Jun Zitao's face was deathly pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura was weak and his voice was filled with despair. "Big brother, am I going to die?" "Don't talk nonsense, you'll be fine." Jun Lingxuan anxiously took out a pill and stuffed it into Jun Zitao's mouth. At the same time, Xiao So hurried to Jun Zitao's side, her face filled with worry. "Are you okay?" Jun Zitao's face was frail as he clutched his injured chest with his right hand. Blood continued to flow out from between his fingers. "Big brother, you must avenge me." Jun Lingxuan nodded repeatedly. "Don't worry, Big brother will definitely avenge you. Miss Xiao, please help me take care of Zitao." Jun Lingxuan looked at Xiao So, his eyes burning with anger. Xiao So quickly replied, Don't worry, I will take good care of him. Jun Lingshuan's face revealed a relieved expression before he turned to Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't expect that we had underestimated you. Chapter 48-58. Listening to Jun Shitao's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly, but she immediately pursed her lips. It's not the first time you've looked down on me, haven't you gotten used to it yet? From the moment she appeared here, Jun Zitao and the others had obviously treated her as a turtle in a jar and had been toying with her. However, the final result was a slap to their faces. She had never cared about the other party's contempt, because reality would tell them that they would have to pay a heavy price if they looked down on someone, such as Jun Zitao. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent appearance, the anger in Jun Lingshuan's eyes burned even more vigorously. What a glib tongue! Jun Lingshuan gritted his teeth. We've indeed looked down on you before. However, we won't make the same mistake again. You must pay with your life for this. Cold words came out from Jun Lingshuan's mouth. His cold gaze was directed at Bailey Hongzhuang, revealing endless killing intent. He regretted the previous matter. Because they had relaxed for a moment, he didn't expect that Jun Zitao would suffer such a serious injury. He had to kill Bailey Hongzhuang with his own hand. Only by doing so could he help Jun Zitao vent his anger. Then let's try it. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was like a knife. Another bolt of lightning streaked across the void. Her delicate and beautiful face bloomed with a smile like an epiphyllum. It was like a poppy that revealed an evil and charming aura. It's hard to say who will die in the end. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's confident appearance, Jun Lingshuan's heart was slightly shaken. Ever since he met Bailey Hongzhuang, he realized that many impossible things had happened to Bailey Hongzhuang. However, no matter how he thought about it, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't be able to use any other means. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang had increased her strength to the Starlight level 8, she still wouldn't be his opponent. However, if that was the case, why was Bailey Hongzhuang still so calm? This was illogical. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long fled. Why was her reaction so different? Then, I'll kill you. Even though Jun Lingshuan had a strange feeling in his heart, he didn't care too much because he had a trump card that ordinary people wouldn't expect. In the next moment, Jun Lingshuan's attack directly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang. His attacks were extremely swift and fierce, showing no mercy at all. It was obvious that he really wanted to kill. In order to avoid any unforeseen circumstances, he had to kill Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. Just kill you Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang is a white dragon. She couldn't let Hongzhuang. She couldn't let Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stop either. Her hands flipped rapidly, and a complicated and wonderful seal quietly appeared. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Xiao Shou couldn't help but frown. She turned her gaze to Su Minglei, who was idling not far away, and said, Su Minglei, why are you just standing there? You should attack too. Su Minglei originally planned to stand there and watch the show. Ever since he fought with Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that this woman was very strange. Especially after seeing how Bailey Hongzhuang dealt with Jun Zitao, he realized that it wasn't a wise move to make this woman his enemy. He even wanted to sneak away secretly. He felt that the situation wouldn't be good if he continued to stay here. Chapter 48-59. In this regard, Su Minglei felt helpless. However, since he had already been noticed, he naturally could not take advantage of this opportunity to leave. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to directly falling out with the Jun family. This was not a wise move. After all, he was now standing on the opposite side of the D family. If he were to go against the Jun family and the Xiao family as well, it would not do him any good. Then, Su Minglei joined the battle as well. When she saw that Su Minglei had joined the battle, a trace of resentment flashed across Xiao Shou's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'd like to see how arrogant you can be now. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared, they had clearly held the absolute advantage. Who would have thought that until now, they would still be led by the nose by Bailey Hongzhuang? This feeling made her extremely unhappy. Therefore, she wanted Bailey Hongzhuang to die. She would not allow any more unexpected situations to occur. When Jun Lingxuan saw Su Minglei appear, he frowned slightly. He then glanced at Xiao Shou but did not say anything in the end. You want to avenge your family. This is also a chance, Jun Lingxuan said calmly. Su Minglei nodded. I want to kill her for their souls in heaven. In the next moment, Jun Lingxuan and Su Minglei's attacks arrived at the same time. When the White Lion saw this situation, it did not rashly charge forward because the difference in power between the two parties was too great. If it were to charge forward, it would only be seriously injured. Seeing the White Lion's actions, Xiao Shou could not help but chuckle. Bailey Hongzhuang, even your contracted beast is unwilling to help you when death is at hand. In their eyes, the White Lion's retreat had exposed Bailey Hongzhuang behind it. It was clearly betraying its master. Bailey Hongzhuang, however, did not pay any attention to him. The seal in her hands was finally completed, and a mysterious power appeared between her hands. Then, a mysterious door appeared with a loud bang. A heavy and mysterious aura quietly appeared, revealing a strange and magical power. Jun Lingxuan and the others frowned and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. What method is this? Jun Lingxuan's eyes were filled with doubt. He had never seen such a method before. It was simply too shocking. Su Minglei was also at a loss. He shook his head and said, I didn't see him use this method before, so I don't know what it is. They could feel that what Bailey Hongzhuang was using at the moment did not seem to be a martial art, but the power emitted by the door made their hearts palpitate. This feeling was like a primordial beast awakening, hiding the power to devour everything, making people feel weak in their hearts for no reason. She's only a cultivator from the lower realms. How could she possibly have such a powerful trump card? Xiao Shou was shocked. She looked at the mysterious black door that was mixed with the color of blood. Her feelings were extremely complicated. What is this door? Why do I feel a terrifying aura? Jun Zitao's eyes widened. Even though his injuries were very serious, he still pulled himself together when facing this door. In his line of sight, the black door was made of an unknown material. It exuded an indescribable heaviness. The mottled bloodstains seemed to be flowing flames as they flowed on the door, revealing a somber and despairing air. That's right, it was despairing. Chapter 4860. Bailey Hongzhuang, is this the trump card you're relying on? Jun Lingxuan's face was grave and serious as he stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with his cold eyes. If he hadn't taken all of this seriously before, then his thoughts had changed at this moment. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes were as calm as water and her voice was as cold as ever. In the next moment, the heavy and strange door slowly opened and a figure suddenly appeared before everyone's eyes. As the figure appeared, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. In their line of sight was a figure that looked like a qilin and a lion. Its huge body was as big as a mountain and its eyes were filled with murderous intent. The moment it appeared, a powerful and unparalleled aura exploded and sent chills down everyone's spines. This is the qilin lion beast? Su Minglei swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His eyes widened and his face was filled with shock. It looks like a qilin and a lion. It must be the qilin lion beast. Jun Lingxuan was also in a daze as he stared at the figure that had suddenly appeared. His heart had long been in turmoil. Why? How did Bailey Hongzhuang do it? This thought kept circling in his mind. The qilin lion beast was not an ordinary demon beast. It was a divine beast. It was extremely difficult for them to even see such a demon beast. Bailey Hongzhuang could actually make it fight for her? What kind of technique was this? There was a moment of silence, and time seemed to have stopped. Xiao Shou and the others' faces stiffened, and they felt that they must be dreaming. Master, you actually summoned the qilin lion beast? White Lion's eyes were filled with astonishment. He thought that his master would summon the centipede from before. He did not expect her to summon the Qilin lion beast this time. This Qilin lion beast was even more powerful than the centipede. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her expression showing a trace of exhaustion, but her eyes were exceptionally bright. When she was summoning, she thought of the Qilin lion beast, and wanted to see if she could successfully summon it. When Jun Lingxuan, Su Minglei, and Xiao Shou joined forces, their battle prowess was not to be underestimated. If they only summoned the giant centipede, it would still be somewhat lacking. However, if he could summon the Qilin lion beast, it would undoubtedly be more advantageous. This Qilin lion beast's true appearance is quite impressive. It looks much better than the last time we saw it. Xiao He sighed. The last time she saw the Qilin lion beast, it was covered in bruises and was extremely ugly. It was completely unbefitting of a divine beast. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang had summoned a Qilin lion beast that was safe and sound, which was much more powerful. How did you do it? Xiao Shou looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a burning gaze. Her beautiful and delicate face was filled with a strong sense of urgency. This method was simply too shocking. If she could obtain such a method, her future would be even more dazzling. Just by thinking about it, one could imagine how she would look like in the future. She would be the center of attention. A strong sense of jealousy spread in her heart and her murderous intent grew. The more outstanding Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was, the stronger her murderous intent grew. Chapter 48-61. After Xiao Shou had voiced her thoughts, Jun Lingxuan and the rest all looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They too wanted to know how Bailey Hongzhuang had managed to achieve this. To them, this method was simply too unbelievable. You want to know? Dream on. Her icy words were filled with mockery and ridicule. Her obsidian-like eyes glowed faintly, revealing a peerless sharpness. Didn't you always think that I came from the lower realm, and that my methods and abilities could not be compared to yours? Now that I take a closer look at you, you look like you've never seen the world. As soon as these words came out, Xiao Se Wu's face was also stiff. She had blurted it out because she was too shocked. At this moment, she was mercilessly ridiculed by Bailey Hongzhuang. She also felt that she had lost face. However, Xiao Shou, Jun Lingxuan, and the rest could not refute her words. This was because even they themselves thought so. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared, she had displayed many abilities. Not only was she not weaker than them, she was even more outstanding than them. Attack! Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly, and the Qilin lion beast's eyes suddenly turned to Jun Lingxuan and Su Minglei. Its tyrannical aura burst out, and under the others' horrified eyes, it rushed directly towards them. White Lion, let's attack together. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke again, lowering her voice. This Qilin lion beast is extremely powerful. Based on my current spiritual energy, I can't summon it for too long. We have to end this quickly. Yes, Master. White Lion nodded hurriedly. Its figure flashed and it joined the battle. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was slightly pale. Summoning the Qilin lion beast was indeed difficult. However, she was very satisfied with the result. As the Qilin lion beast's battle powers exploded, Jun Lingxuan and the rest could clearly sense that the Qilin lion beast's power had reached Nebula Level 2. This level of strength was something that they could not contend against. Damn it! Jun Lingxuan cursed. This Qilin lion is too strong. He had already used all of his powers, but he was still being beaten back by the Qilin lion beast. Even if he teamed up with Su Minglei, they were still no match for the Qilin lion, let alone the White Lion and Bailey Hongzhuang. The situation was reversed in an instant. Jun Lingxuan and the others no longer had any advantage. Seeing this, Xiao Shou immediately joined the battle. This Qilin lion is too strong. We are no match for it. Su Minglei was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel lucky that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't use this method when they fought. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. and now, the thought of retreating had sprouted in his heart. After fighting Bailey Hongzhuang twice, he no longer wanted to be enemies with Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was an undefeatable existence. No one knew what kind of trump card she had. As he thought about it, Su Minglei began to retreat. If he didn't escape now, only death would await him. Su Minglei, you're not thinking of escaping, are you? Xiao Sou immediately noticed Su Minglei's actions and couldn't help but question him. She's too strong. We're all going to die if we stay here. Why don't we split up and escape? Maybe we'll have a chance of survival. Chapter 4862. Su Minglei, if you dare to leave now, I won't let you off in the future. Jun Lingxuan's eyes were also filled with anger. Previously, when Su Minglei met them, he said all kinds of nice things in order to ask them to help him deal with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, at this moment, after such a situation, Su Minglei actually wanted to escape. It was too abominable. Feeling Jun Lingxuan's anger, Su Minglei's footsteps paused slightly, but in the end, he still chose to speed up and escape. Whether or not he would have to bear the anger of Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou in the future depended on whether they could survive after today. If he continued to stay here, he was afraid that he would not be able to see the sun tomorrow. Looking at Su Minglei's rapidly escaping figure, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou's eyes were filled with anger. In their hearts, they secretly decided that if they saw Su Minglei in the future, they would definitely kill this treacherous bastard. After seeing this scene, the already seriously injured Jun Zitao's face became even paler. Only now did he understand that Su Minglei's exaggerated reaction was true. Bailey Hongzhuang's combat power was too shocking. Even if her cultivation was only at the 6th stage of the Starlight Realm, with such combat power and means, even a Nebula Realm cultivator would not be her opponent. Big brother, Miss Xiao, don't worry about me, hurry up and leave. Jun Zitao shouted with all his strength. He understood that if Jun Zitao and Xiao Sou chose to leave, there was still a possibility of survival. The reason why they did not have the intention to leave was because of him. After being seriously injured, he did not even have the strength to stand up, let alone escape. Zitao, don't say such stupid things. I won't leave you behind. Jun Lingxuan's face was ashen. No matter what, he would not leave his own brother behind. Bang! The Qilin lion's fist fiercely hit Jun Lingxuan's chest. The powerful and terrifying force caused Jun Lingxuan to fly backward. After breaking a few trees in succession, he fell heavily on the ground, stirring up a cloud of dust. Pfft! Jun Lingxuan clutched his chest, bright red blood spurting out. Clearly, he was seriously injured. After Jun Lingxuan was seriously injured, Xiao Sou's shoulder was also bitten by the white lion's sharp teeth. Xiao Sou crazily screamed. Her face was pale and filled with panic. Bailey Hongzhuang, hurry, make it shut up. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes seemed to be looking at an idiot. Xiao Sei Wu, are you out of your mind? After White's T-test. White tests, to avenge, shout TS's. TTSSSS White Lion TTSS TTSS, drag to TS, directly T-tests of T's to 2's to S it. In the blink of an eye, everything had happened in the blink of an eye. Bailey Hongzhuang held the sharp sword in her hand and flew towards Xiao Sou with the thoughts severing sword. She would never show mercy to her enemies. Quick, attack! Jun Lingxuan lowered his voice and shouted. TSK Tisk. A sinister and hair-raising voice rang out, then you better remember what you've promised me. Don't worry, Jun Lingxuan replied. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to approach Xiao Sou, she suddenly froze on the spot and stopped in her tracks. Chapter 4863. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to attack Xiao Sou, she suddenly felt an aura enter her mind and began to fight for control of her body. What are you trying to do by entering my mind? Bailey Hongzhuang felt a chill in her heart as she asked icily as she stared at the spirit in her sea of consciousness. It was a woman. Her features were extremely ugly, and her entire being emitted a gloomy aura. Bailey Hongzhuang felt extremely uncomfortable the moment she sensed it. She was almost certain that this woman was a heretic cultivator. Only a heretic cultivator would emit such a demonic energy. The woman's eyes lit up with interest when she noticed that Bailey Hongzhuang was not surprised by her appearance. "Aren't you curious as to how I had appeared? What's there to be curious about?" Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold and arrogant. "You must be the spirit that had been hiding in Jun Lingxuan's body." The White Dragon had warned her about the existence of this spirit a long time ago. Hence, she had always been on guard. However, she never thought that this spirit would enter her sea of consciousness directly. "You can actually sense it?" A sense of shock appeared in the woman's eyes. "I've been by Jun Lingxuan's side for so long, and no one has ever sensed my existence." "How did you sense it? Is it important how I sensed it?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked in return. "The most important thing now is for you to get out of my sea of consciousness immediately." Hearing this, the woman chuckled. "Since I'm here, I naturally have no intention of leaving." As she spoke, the woman began to size up Bailey Hongzhuang's sea of consciousness. "What a powerful physical body with outstanding looks. You'll definitely be able to charm many men. All these years, I've been searching for a physical body that fits my requirements, but I've never been able to find one. However, your appearance is truly a pleasant surprise." The woman looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if she was looking at her own food. Her eyes were filled with greed and satisfaction. "Perfect! This is a perfect body." The woman's face was filled with excitement. All these years, she had been relying on her soul to survive. Even though he had always wanted to search for a suitable physical body, this was no simple task at all. She didn't care about ordinary bodies at all. Since she was looking for one, she naturally had to find one that suited her the most. Moreover, with the strength of her soul, an ordinary physical body wouldn't be able to withstand it. Although she had previously viewed Bailey Hongzhuang in a different light, it was not until she entered Bailey Hongzhuang's sea of consciousness that she understood that this was a perfect body for her. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with disgust when she felt the woman's covetous gaze, but she also understood her thoughts. "You want to possess my body." Some powerful cultivators had their physical bodies destroyed after encountering danger, but as long as their souls still existed, they would not completely perish. Therefore, these powerful cultivators would often use the method of possession, devouring the souls of others and using the bodies of others to survive. Not only that, there were also some elderly cultivators who had been unable to break through their shackles but were unwilling to die. They would also use this method. Actually, many people were not unfamiliar with this method. However, it still filled them with disgust. That was because this was simply too outrageous. Chapter 48-64. Most importantly, the death of one's soul was something that no one else would know about. Therefore, everyone would think that this person had suddenly changed. There was no doubt that if this sorcerer were to consume her soul, knowing her personality, she would run amok and do something extremely terrifying. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. She may have heard of this kind of possession, but she has never experienced it. At that moment, she was at a loss for what to do. "Don't even think about it. Even if your soul is rather powerful, you are no match for me." The woman's eyes were filled with joy. She had been living as a soul, and had to rely on Jun Lingxuan. This made her feel extremely unhappy. As long as she has her own physical body, she would be able to survive. "Come, be obedient and allow me to consume you." The woman's smile was strange and greedy. Her soul did not hesitate as it pounced towards Bailey Hongzhuang's consciousness. "In your dreams!" Bailey Hongzhuang cried out icily, and began to fight with the woman's soul. As they fought, Bailey Hongzhuang's sea of consciousness also turned upside down. Bai Shi and Xiao He could not help but worry when they noticed the strange change in Bailey Hongzhuang. "Master, what's wrong?" Xiao He quickly asked. "Master, are you all right?" Bai Shi looked anxious. He could not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang had suddenly frozen in place. No matter how they called out to her, she did not respond. As Bailey Hongzhuang's consciousness began to fight, the Qilin lion beast also began to disappear through the door. It had been summoned by Bailey Hongzhuang's consciousness and was under Bailey Hongzhuang's control. At this moment, it could no longer feel Bailey Hongzhuang's pull and naturally left. Xiao Sou's face was filled with astonishment when she noticed this sudden change. However, she could not help but feel pleasantly surprised. What's going on? Xiao Sou looked at Jun Lingxuan. Bailey Hongzhuang was about to win. Why did everything suddenly change? Jun Lingxuan forced himself to stand up, a trace of viciousness appearing on his handsome face. It won't be that easy to kill us. Hearing those words, Xiao Sou's eyes were filled with joy. Young Master Jun, did you do this? Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. That's right. She's not the only one with a trump card. I have one too. In fact, he was also a little surprised. Even though he knew how powerful the spirit was, he still believed that it would take some time to deal with the Qilin lion. He didn't expect that everything would be stopped in such a short time. He couldn't understand how it was done. Most importantly, he did not see the soul attack, but Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be frozen in place, unable to move. It was really strange. Of course, in front of Xiao Sou, he would never show it. After hearing Jun Lingxuan's confirmation, the look of joy on Xiao Sou's face turned into admiration. I never thought that young Master Jun would have such a trump card. I don't care, I'm going to kill you first. The white lion turned its vicious gaze towards Xiao Sou. It was all because of this damned woman that its master had to endure so much. Even though it did not know what had happened to its master, it had seized this rare opportunity, and it must kill this woman. Chapter 4865. If you want your master to die, then do it. Jun Lingxuan's voice suddenly rang out. The corners of his lips curled into a cold smile as he stared fearlessly at Bai Shi. Clearly, he was certain that Bai Shi would not dare to make a move. What on earth have you done to my master? Bai Shi roared angrily. No matter how much he thought about it, he could not understand what had just happened. Jun Lingxuan laughed softly. Her life is now in my hands. If you dare to act blindly without thinking, I can guarantee that she will die a horrible death. Bai Shi and Xiao He looked at each other but did not make a move in the end. Ever since they had followed their master, they had never encountered a situation like this. Compared to Xiao Sou, they naturally valued their master's life more. Noticing the fear in Bai Shi and Xiao He's eyes, Xiao Sou's eyes flashed with complacency and viciousness. She immediately took out a pill and swallowed it. She then broke free from Bai Shi's control and quickly approached Jun Lingxuan. Young Master Jun, how did you do it? Xiao Sou stared at Jun Lingxuan in amazement. They had thought that they were going to lose, but Jun Lingxuan had changed the outcome. Jun Lingxuan put on a mysterious smile. Miss Xiao, everyone has their own secrets. I believe that you understand? Xiao Sou nodded. I understand. Don't let her off. You must kill her. Every time she thought about how she had nearly died at Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, she felt a lingering fear in her heart. She no longer wished to find out about Bailey Hongzhuang's secret. She only wished that Bailey Hongzhuang would completely disappear from this world. Because of all these unforeseen events, her heart could no longer take it. Bailey Hongzhuang was a terrifying existence. Jun Lingxuan smiled and nodded. Don't worry, none of them will be able to escape today. At the next moment, Jun Lingxuan turned his gaze to Bai Shi. His gaze was cold and vicious. Bailey Hongzhuang's life is now in my hands. Kill yourself now as an apology. Otherwise, I'll kill her immediately. Bai Shi's expression stiffened when he heard this. What? You don't believe me? Jun Lingxuan raised his eyebrows. How about I try it now? Stop. White Lion hurriedly shouted. Then kill yourself. Jun Lingxuan looked at Bai Shi proudly. He clearly remembered that this guy had attacked him just now. Although he had already taken the pill, his injuries were still serious. It was extremely difficult to deal with White Lion with his own strength. The only way was to use Bailey Hongzhuang to threaten them. He believed that these two contracted beasts would not dare to disobey him. After seeing this scene, Xiao Sou and Jun Zitao revealed proud smiles on their faces. Every dog has its day. Victory is still on our side. Jun Zitao heaved a sigh of relief. His entire being seemed to glow with vigor. Baisher looked hesitant. He did not know what to do. Baisher, don't believe his words. If you really kill yourself, they won't let Master off. Don't do anything stupid. Xiao He hurriedly said. Then what about Master? Baisher had a complicated look on his face. Until now, Bailey Hongzhuang had not made any moves. This situation was just too strange. Master will be fine, Xiao He said with certainty. Chapter 4866. Jun Lingxuan stopped dreaming. Baisher's eyes were icy cold. When it had noticed the sudden change in its master, it had been too flustered and its mind had not been clear for a moment. Now that it has calmed down, it understood what was going on. If you could really kill my master immediately, you would have done it long ago. Why would you wait until now? I'm sure that you can't kill my master immediately, can you? Jun Lingxuan's expression sank when he heard Baisher's words. He never thought that these two contractual beasts would be so smart and would not fall for his trick. It's fine if you don't believe me. After all, once Bailey Hongzhuang dies, you'll all die as well. Jun Lingxuan chuckled as if he did not care about this at all. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang dies, Xiao He and Baisher, as contractual beasts, would naturally die with Bailey Hongzhuang as well. He was very confident that as long as that spirit attacked, Bailey Hongzhuang would never be able to survive. After all, he had experienced the power of that spirit firsthand. If it had not been for the fact that he had to pay a huge price every time she attacked, he would have asked her to attack long ago. However, as long as he could kill Bailey Hongzhuang, the price would be worth it. The situation had reached a stalemate. Bailey Hongzhuang and the spirit were engaged in a fierce battle in her mind. The other party kept trying to devour her spirit while she tried her best to stop it. During this battle, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that this spirit was extremely powerful. She guessed that its predecessor must have been a very powerful being. If it had not been for the fact that she had not possessed a physical body for many years and her spiritual power had weakened significantly, she would not have been able to fight back at all. Even so, it was not easy for her to deal with this spirit. Her spirit stones had been greatly weakened after she had summoned the Qilin lion beast. Now, it was even more difficult for her to deal with this battle. The woman clearly did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be able to hold on for so long under her devouring. This made her feel a little tired. After all, she had put in a lot of effort to maintain the strength of her spirit. It would not be easy for her to replenish her depleted spirit stones. The woman's attacks became even more ferocious at the thought of this. She had to end this battle quickly and obtain Bailey Hongzhuang's physical body. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart shivered when she sensed the sudden increase in her opponent's attacks. Just then, a thought appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang mobilized the power of light and began to attack the evil cultivator. Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue moved forward like this. Suddenly their eyes turned to the front. Di Beichen's eyes lit up. Ever since he entered the Immortal Cloud's secret territory, he had always been alone. Until they came across a herb field and met Mo Yunjue. The two of them had been traveling together ever since. They had been traveling for a few days now, but they had not met any other cultivators. They felt rather helpless about this. At this moment, they only hoped that they could find Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. They did not know why, but they felt worried as if something bad had happened. Chapter 4867. In fact, they had not met any other cultivators along the way and their hearts were pounding. They did not know if it was because the immortal cloud mystery realm was too big or if it was because of their luck. If it was really because of their luck, they did not know whether they were lucky or not. This was because they hoped to meet their companions as soon as possible, especially Bailey Hongzhuang and Ao Lingxiao. Only when they found Bailey Hongzhuang would they be able to calm down. Ao Lingxiao was undoubtedly in the most danger in the immortal cloud mystery realm. The later they met him, the greater the danger. Beichen, as long as Ao Lingxiao changes his appearance, it should not be easy for others to discover him. Mo Yunjue's dark and deep eyes flashed with a cold and serious light. His voice was gentle as he put forward his thoughts. Ordinary cultivators might not be able to recognize him, but the cultivators from the Ao family and the Jun family have already locked onto his aura. A person's appearance can be changed through disguise, but one's aura cannot be concealed. Ao Zhengquang and the others are so familiar with him that even if his appearance is different, they would be able to recognize him immediately. He had asked Di Xiaofeng about this before. The cultivators from the upper realm were able to determine their identities based on their aura. If the disguise technique was extremely good, it might be able to confuse them for a period of time. However, this only applied to cultivators who were not very familiar with them. If it was someone who was very familiar with them, it would not be able to fool them. When he heard this news, Di Beichen sighed in his heart. It seemed that when they had changed their appearance and returned to Rong'an City previously, it was also quite risky. Fortunately, they were not recognized at that time. The biggest reason for this was that when they were in the House of Raging Flames, they did not make many friends. Therefore, most people were not familiar with them and naturally could not recognize their aura. Hearing Di Beichen's explanation, Mo Yunjue furrowed his beautiful eyebrows. In that case, Ao Lingxiao is indeed more dangerous. Let's speed up. Who knows, the person who is fighting now might be Ao Lingxiao. Di Beichen nodded slightly. They had only been in the immortal cloud mystery realm for about 10 days. Normally, cultivators would not obtain any outstanding treasures. The battle in the distance was so intense. Perhaps it really was Ao Lingxiao. Baisher and Xiao He had been paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. When they saw that their mistress's face was turning paler and the corners of her lips were bleeding, the two beasts could not help but panic. Why can't I understand what kind of situation Master is in? At this moment, Xiao He could not be bothered with the fact that her body had yet to recover. Under such circumstances, she was not in the mood to think about these things. She was only worried about Bailey Hongzhuang. White Lion shook its head. It was also unfamiliar with such a situation. Previously, it had not noticed what Jun Lingxuan had done to its master, but its master had already become like this. It was really too strange. If this continues, I'm afraid Master won't be able to hold on for much longer. From Bailey Hongzhuang's pale, bloodless face, it could be seen that she was struggling with all her might. Jun Lingxuan, what have you done? Baisher's eyes were filled with a dark haze as a cold, killing intent wreaked havoc. Chapter 48-68. Young Master Jun, if it's possible, let's settle this matter as soon as possible. Xiao Sou's words were cold and her eyes were as dark as the night sky, filled with malevolence and urgency. This Bailey Hongzhuang is no pushover. She has brought us a lot of trouble ever since she had appeared. If we don't get rid of her as soon as possible, I'm worried that we won't know what kind of unforeseen events will happen in the future. Don't worry, she will definitely die today. Jun Lingxuan raised his long brows and his eyes were filled with confidence. However, this Bailey Hongzhuang holds many curious secrets. It would be a pity to let her die just like that. I'm afraid she won't tell us. Xiao Sou's expression was complicated as a vicious light flashed in her deep eyes. After experiencing so many unforeseen events, she could only hope that Bailey Hongzhuang would fall. Even though she was envious of Bailey Hongzhuang's methods, she knew very well that based on Bailey Hongzhuang's personality, she would never divulge this secret to them. Rather than that, they might as well just kill her. A dark light flashed in Jun Lingxuan's eyes as he stared at Xiao Sou's desperate look. Actually, he too had hoped that this battle could be resolved as soon as possible. However, even he himself did not know what was going on. Ever since that spirit had left, Bailey Hongzhuang had become like this. Vaguely, an idea appeared in his mind. That spirit had been searching for a suitable physical body. Could it be that she had taken a liking to Bailey Hongzhuang? At this moment, no matter how he tried to communicate with that spirit, he could not get any response. Just like how Bailey Hongzhuang would not respond to Bai Shi and Xiao He. Perhaps the situation was just as he had predicted. Jun Lingxuan's eyes darkened at the thought of this. Even though he had promised to help the spirit find a suitable physical body, he did not want to do so. Because once that spirit had successfully taken over the body, she would never help him again. Moreover, if he knew her secret, he might be silenced by her instead. That would be the worst. Thinking of this, Jun Lingxuan turned to look at Xiao Sou and asked, "Miss Xiao, how is your current situation? Do you still have the strength to fight?" Xiao Sou was already worried about how to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. After hearing Jun Lingxuan's question, a hint of joy quietly appeared in her eyes. "I'm fine with it." Xiao Sou subconsciously looked at her injured shoulder and said, "Although my combat ability has been affected, I can still do it." "Then let's end this quickly." Jun Lingxuan pursed his thin lips, and a trace of coldness flashed through his ink-black eyes. He was also seriously injured, but after taking a pill and resting for a short period of time, his condition had recovered quite a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly no longer has the strength to fight, while Xiao He's condition was extremely terrible. Similarly, there was no need to fear her. As such, they only needed to deal with Bai Shi. The scales of victory had already tilted towards their side. All right. After making their decision, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou no longer hesitated and attacked at once. Jun Lingxuan immediately attacked Bai Shi while Xiao Sou turned her target towards Bailey Hongzhuang. She desperately hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would fall as soon as possible and did not want to cause any more trouble. Seeing Jun Lingxuan and Xiao He's actions, Bai Shi's eyes were as cold as a frozen lake in October, chilling to the bone. "Xiao He, let's fight." Chapter 48-69. In the blink of an eye, the battle had erupted. Bai Shi had blocked Jun Lingxuan's attack, but he could not protect Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He was already heavily injured and her condition was extremely weak. However, for the sake of Bailey Hongzhuang, she immediately enlarged her body and stood in front of her. Xiao Sou's sharp sword stabbed towards Xiao He without any hesitation. Xiao He used all her strength to block the attack. Elemental energy shot out and streaks of light from the sword flashed past. Xiao Sou could dodge, but Xiao He could not. This was because if it chose to dodge, the attacks would land on its master's body. Hence, it could only endure them all. Within a short period of time, Xiao He's body was riddled with holes and dripping with blood. Xiao He's eyes, which had always been filled with vigor, gradually dimmed. Xiao He felt all the strength in her body dissipating. She glanced reluctantly at Bailey Hongzhuang behind her, as if she wanted to remember her face forever. "Master, I may not be able to stay by your side any longer." Her gentle gaze was filled with nostalgia and reluctance to part with Xiao He. She could vaguely see tears in her eyes before they finally turned into determination and unyielding. In the next moment, Blackie's figure moved and pounced directly at Xiao Sou. Even if she had to die, she would help her master get rid of a scourge. When Xiao Sou noticed Xiao He's actions, her eyes flashed with disdain and ridicule. "You're already at the end of your rope. You can't possibly kill me." However, Xiao He ignored her words. The elemental energy within her body began to surge wildly. Then, Xiao He's body began to expand in front of everyone's eyes. Sensing Xiao He's movements, Bai Shi and Jun Lingxuan could not help but look over. "Xiao He, Bai Shi's pupils shrank and he could not hide the shock and anxiety on his face. Miss Xiao, be careful. It's going to self-destruct. Jun Lingxuan hurriedly shouted. He never thought that the contract beast would choose to self-destruct in order to kill Xiao Shou. Originally, Xiao Shou didn't quite understand Xiao Hei's actions. Now that she heard Jun Lingxuan's reminder, a trace of panic quickly appeared on her face. You lunatic! Xiao Shou hurriedly retreated. The power of self-destruction was extremely terrifying. If Xiao Hei really self-destructed while hugging her, then no matter if it was her or Xiao Hei, there would be nothing left of them. However, no matter how Xiao Shou struggled, Xiao Hei hugged her tightly and refused to let her go. Xiao Shou, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. Xiao Hei's gaze was ferocious and stubborn. It gritted its teeth, and its white fur was already dyed red with blood. However, it no longer cared about any of this. Xiao Hei, don't do anything stupid. Bai Shi's eyes were bloodshot. When he had found out about Xiao Hei's actions, his heart had been shaken. Even though the current situation was so dangerous, he never thought that things would turn out this way. This was because they had often lingered on the edge of danger in the past, but had always managed to avert it. However, when he thought about Xiao Hei's actions, perhaps they really were powerless to turn the tables this time. If that was really the case, he would end up like Xiao Hei and drag Jun Lingxuan down with him. Chapter 4870. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Bai Shi nodded. There was a trace of sadness in its smile, but its eyes were filled with determination. You won't be alone. Even if I have to die, I will drag Jun Lingxuan down with me so that my master will have a chance of survival. It had already understood the situation before its eyes. It was obvious that Jun Lingxuan had no way of controlling its master's life, and that was why it had decided to take action. As long as they perished together, then its master would still have a chance of survival. After hearing Bai Shi's words, Jun Lingxuan's brows furrowed with anxiety and worry. He never thought that these two contracted beasts would come to such a decision. These two fellows were just too ridiculous. Had they decided to give it their all in order to protect their master? He subconsciously turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although contracted beasts had always been extremely loyal to their masters, that was because of the master-servant contract between them. Once the master falls, the contracted beast would not have any chance of survival. However, how many contracted beasts would actually take the initiative to go to such lengths for their masters? Madness, these two contracted beasts have gone mad. Xiao Shou's pretty face was filled with terror. The glee in her eyes had long disappeared and was replaced with fear and dread. Young Master Jun, what should we do? She tried desperately to break free from Xiao Hei, but Xiao Hei stuck to her like a dogskin plaster, not giving her any chance to escape. Jun Lingxuan's expression was just as complicated. This sudden turn of events had left him at a loss for what to do. When Di Beichen and Mo Yunju arrived, they saw the situation unfolding before their eyes. Within their line of sight, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was pale white and blood was flowing from the corners of her lips. Xiao Hei's fur had been dyed red with blood, and it was gathering its strength in a frenzy to self-destruct. Although Bai Shi had suffered less injuries than Xiao Hei, it was still a very serious injury. How tragic was that? Their eyes were almost dyed with traces of blood at the first moment. Anger swept through their hearts, igniting their chests. Di Beichen's eyes, which were as bright as obsidian, turned cold in an instant. They were filled with oppression and killing intent, and the domineering aura of a powerhouse that said, "Those who submit to me will prosper and those who resist me will perish. You're courting death." His cold voice was like a cold lake. Under this cold chill, the surrounding temperature seemed to drop in an instant, condensing into ice. That was the woman he loved the most. She was the woman he would protect for the rest of his life. She was the woman he placed in the palm of his hand. But now they were seriously injured by these damned bastards, and their two contracted beasts were even planning to self-destruct. The scene completely infuriated him. An indescribable feeling of blood spread in his heart. Kill. Kill, kill, kill. This was the only thought that appeared in Di Baichen's mind. He wanted to kill all these people in front of him. Only in this way could his anger be appeased. Mo Yunjue's expression instantly turned cold as well. A surging murderous intent swept through the air and almost condensed into a solid form. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang's sweetheart was not him, his desire to protect Bailey Hongzhuang has never wavered. She was the person he cared about the most, the person he placed at the tip of his heart at all times. These damned bastards had actually dared to do such a thing. He would never forgive them. The sudden voice shocked Xiao Sou and the others. When they saw Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue's figures, their expressions turned ugly. Chapter 48-71. When White Lion heard Di Baichen's voice, its despairing face was instantly dyed with a sense of pleasant surprise. It immediately looked at Xiao He and exclaimed, "Xiao He, stop! There's a turning point." Previously, they had indeed been driven to a dead end. That was why they had made such a choice. Now that the reinforcements have arrived, Xiao He naturally no longer had to choose to self-destruct. Hearing this, Xiao He's eyes flashed with astonishment. Then, it turned into pity, and a look of relief appeared on its face. "I can no longer turn back. As long as all of you are safe, I can rest assured." Once they had chosen to self-destruct, there was no turning back. Long before this, it had already understood that there was no way out for itself. However, now that it had seen Di Baichen and the others appear, it felt that its master's life was not in danger. Hence, it was completely at ease. At least everyone was still alive. It was just that it would be leaving first. Hearing Xiao He's words, White Lion's expression turned sorrowful. That's right. How could it have forgotten that self-destructing was a path of no return? If one had not been driven to a dead end, no one would have made such a choice. When Di Baichen and Mo Yunjue noticed Xiao He's situation, their hearts turned cold. They were secretly annoyed that they had arrived too late. If they had arrived here earlier, then the situation would not have reached such an irreversible point of no return. Xiao He. Xiao Bai stared anxiously at Xiao He. Her face was filled with worry. "Hurry up and try to stop. You can't die like this." Seeing Xiao Bai's appearance, a smile appeared on Xiao He's face. "I've tried my best, but there's no way to stop this. Xiao Bai, it's great to see you again before I die." For as long as it could remember, it had lived with Xiao Bai. It had been so many years that even it could not remember how many years they had lived together. Even though they were usually noisy and chatty, in their hearts, each other had long been a part of their life. When Xiao Bai saw Xiao He's appearance, her eyes turned red. Then, she charged towards Xiao He without hesitation. "We've always been together. Even if we die, we should die together." Noticing Xiao Bai's actions, Xiao He's pupils shrank. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "Xiao Bai, are you crazy? Why did you come here to die? If we're going to die, we're going to die together. We've always lived together. How can you leave without me?" Little White had obviously made up his mind. His face was calm and unperturbed. He then turned around and looked at Di Baichen. "Master, I'm sorry, I have to go first. Remember to apologize to Mistress for me. We weren't able to accompany her to the end. However, these have been the happiest days of our lives." "Don't do anything stupid." Di Baichen's expression was grave. "Think of something. Perhaps there's still a way to turn things around." Hearing this, Xiao Bai and Xiao He looked at each other. Their lips curled into a smile. "Since that's the case, let's give it a try." Knowing that they were going to die, they had nothing to fear. Then, Xiao He and Xiao Bai activated their cultivation techniques at the same time. They overlapped their hands and the energy in their bodies was connected. Chapter 48-72. After noticing Xiao He and Xiao Bai's actions, everyone understood that they were trying to stop the self-detonation. Di Baichen's expression darkened. He did not know if the situation could be reversed. No one had ever tried self-detonation before. However, their predecessors' experience told them that there was no turning back from self-detonation. Even so, they still harbored a glimmer of hope in their hearts. After all, many things in this world could turn from the impossible into the possible. Why do I feel that Xiao He and Xiao Bai look like a picture when they spin? Bai sure looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai in astonishment. Right now, he only hoped that nothing would happen to them. All these years, he had long gotten used to playing around with Xiao He and Xiao Bai. If they left just like that, he would not be able to accept it. This seems to be a yin-yang 8 trigrams diagram? Mo Yunjue raised his long eyebrows. His eyes, which were as black as a deep pool, were like stars in the dark night, revealing his deep thoughts and wisdom. Hearing this, Di Beichen nodded after taking a closer look. That's right, it's a yin-yang 8 trigrams diagram. In the past, Xiao He and Xiao Bai had used a similar technique, and it was extremely powerful. This is a very mysterious diagram that is filled with a mysterious and chaotic power. Bai Shi's eyes lit up. He had some understanding of Xiao He and Xiao Bai's trump card. However, he did not know what effect Xiao He and Xiao Bai would have on this technique. You overestimate yourselves. A mocking look appeared in Xiao Sou's eyes. Everyone knew that once someone chose to self-detonate, they would not be able to survive. She did not expect Di Beichen and the rest to be so naive. They had hoped that there would be a way out of this, and had even sacrificed the life of another contract beast. In her opinion, this was simply laughable. Compared to Xiao Sou, Jun Lingxuan was not in the mood to pay attention to these things at this moment. He was already heavily injured. They could deal with 2 contracted beasts, but now that Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue were in their peak condition, they were no match for them. Once they started fighting, they would only be courting death. Therefore, the only way now was to escape. Miss Xiao. Jun Lingxuan lowered his voice and hurriedly shouted, while Di Beichen and the others were paying more attention to Xiao He. Let's run. Jun Lingxuan hurriedly said. Xiao Sou nodded repeatedly. She naturally understood how bad the current situation was. Only by quickly escaping would they have a chance of survival. In the next moment, the 2 of them turned around and retreated. Jun Zitao's face was deathly pale. He could not understand why there were so many unforeseen events today. First, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength had destroyed everything. Then, when they finally managed to turn the tables, Di Beichen and the others appeared. His mood was simply fluctuating, making it difficult for him to breathe. Jun Lingxuan quickly came to Jun Zitao's side and supported him, intending to leave. Seeing this, Jun Zitao could not help but say, "Big brother, put me down. With a burden like me, you can't escape at all." His injuries were too serious. Under Bailey Hongzhuang's attacks, it was not easy for him to be able to hold on to his last breath. Escaping with him was simply a burden. Not only was there no possibility of leaving, but everyone would have to stay here. Rather than that, it was better to abandon him and leave directly. Chapter 48-73. Looking at Jun Lingxuan's solemn and serious expression, Jun Zitao was touched. "Big brother, I know you're good to me, so I can't drag you down. Let me stay here. If you die because of me, I won't be able to rest in peace. Don't spout nonsense. The outcome is still unknown." Jun Lingxuan's expression was grave and serious. He understood that given the current situation, they might not even be able to escape on their own. It would be even more difficult for them to escape with Jun Zitao. However, even though he knew the situation, he was still unwilling to give up just like that. He had never thought of giving up on his younger brother and fighting for a chance of survival for himself. "Big brother, you've always cared for me since I was young. I understand that you're good to me. Even if I die here today, I won't regret it. So, don't do anything that makes me sad. Hurry up and leave." After Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue noticed Xiao He and Xiao Bai's situation, there was a trace of worry between their brows. However, they could not help in this situation. The only thing they could do was pray and hope that Xiao He and Xiao Bai could turn everything around. After returning to his senses, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with concern but realized that the latter did not react to his appearance. "Baisher, what's going on?" Di Beichen hurriedly asked as his beautiful face was filled with worry and confusion. "I don't know what Jun Lingxuan did to Master to suddenly become like this." Baisher's expression was somewhat helpless. "No matter how I asked, Jun Lingxuan refused to tell me." As Baisher's voice fell, Di Beichen's gaze locked onto Jun Lingxuan. When he realized that the latter was planning to escape, his eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, were immediately dyed with a deep and cold light. "Jun Lingxuan, what did you do to my wife?" Di Beichen's cold voice was filled with a murderous aura that almost condensed into a substance. Di Beichen's eyes narrowed, and his ink-black pupils were filled with a peerless edge. Everyone present could sense this terrifying murderous intent and domineering aura. Even Jun Lingxuan could not help but shiver. Ever since he had met Di Beichen, he had never treated him well. However, this was the first time he had seen such a terrifying side to Di Beichen. Xiao Sou's heart was also filled with shock and horror. She had always known that Di Beichen was handsome, and she had been mesmerized by him since the first time they met. His handsome face looked as if it had been meticulously carved by the heavens. The contours of his face were as sharp as a knife, cold and hard without losing his handsomeness. Under his sharp brows, his eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, were deep and mysterious. It was as if he could devour a person's soul with just one look. At this moment, Di Beichen's entire body exuded a cold and terrifying aura. He was as noble as a god and as a messenger of hell, exuding a bloodthirsty and terrifying murderous aura. Under the influence of this murderous aura, even they could not help but tremble and feel that it was difficult to resist. It was as if this kind of person was destined to be in a superior position since he was born. He could turn everything into ashes with just a raise of his hand. The questioning words struck Jun Lingxuan's heart. Looking at the pair of terrifying and murderous eyes, he was so weak that he did not dare to answer for a moment. After a long while, he finally broke free from Di Beichen's aura. The shock in his heart grew even stronger. A cultivator from the lower realm actually had such a terrifying and shocking aura. Chapter 48-74. Di Beichen, you. Jun Lingxuan was so intimidated by Di Beichen's aura that he was momentarily at a loss for words. He felt as if his opponent's gaze could directly freeze him into ice. That terrifying murderous aura had almost affected his mind. Under this gaze, he did not dare to lie at all. "No. This can't be." Jun Lingxuan screamed madly in his heart. His opponent was just a person whom he had never paid any attention to. Now, he could actually influence his mind. This was something he would never allow. Di Beichen had already unleashed his murderous aura. He was well aware of the power of a murderous aura. That dense murderous aura could directly affect a person's mind. Under such circumstances, it was best to get the truth out of him. Jun Lingxuan's face flushed red. He gritted his teeth. Even though this feeling made him feel as if he was about to collapse, he knew very well that he absolutely could not say it out loud. Otherwise, it would be no different from trampling on his dignity. To be intimidated by a young brat from the lower realm was a joke in itself. "I won't tell you," Jun Lingxuan said coldly. Hearing this, Di Beichen's eyes turned sharp. "Since that's the case, I'll force you to tell me." That was the woman whom he had risked his life to protect. No matter what method he had to use, he would find a way to break it from Jun Lingxuan. In the next moment, Di Beichen's figure moved and directly approached Jun Lingxuan. Mo Yunjue's face had been gloomy the entire time. His eyes, which were as deep as black holes, were gathering a terrifying whirlpool storm. This damned bunch actually dared to hurt Hongzhuang. He would never allow that to happen. Xiao Sou stood on the spot and stared blankly at Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue. She did not know why, but when faced with the murderous aura emanating from their bodies, she felt her mind go blank. It was only when the two of them were getting closer and closer that she finally reacted and hurriedly said, "Quick! Let's run. Big brother, it'll be too late if we don't leave now." Jun Zitao also shouted with a pale face. He was already a cripple, and he absolutely could not implicate his elder brother. "You want to escape? Dream on." Di Beichen did not give them any chance to escape. These damned bastards, from the moment they attacked Hong Zhuang, their fate was sealed. He would definitely kill these fellows. Jun Lingxuan looked at the rapidly approaching Di Beichen, then looked at Di Beichen on the ground, and suddenly said, "How about we make a deal? You don't have the right to make a deal with me." Di Beichen's voice was extremely cold, revealing an unquestionable meaning. "If you kill us now, you will never know the solution to Bailey Hongzhuang's current situation." Jun Lingxuan forced himself to remain calm. Since there was no chance to escape now, he could only try to make a deal with Di Beichen. No matter what, he could not throw his life away here. "Do you think I'll believe you?" Di Beichen's gaze was as sharp as a knife, and there was a trace of disdain in his voice. "As long as you die, the thing you used on her will also disappear." "No, it's not like that." Jun Lingxuan shook his head, and his face was filled with seriousness. "I don't mind telling you that the reason she became like this is not because of the martial skill I used." "Then what is it?" Chapter 4875. As long as you promise to let us live today, I will tell you about this matter. How about it? Jun Lingxuan looked at Di Beichen with a burning gaze. This was the only way he could think of at the moment. "You trust me that much? Aren't you afraid that I'll go back on my word?" Di Beichen's eyebrows revealed a trace of astonishment. The people of the Jun family had always been crafty and crafty. He never thought that Jun Lingxuan would say something like this at this moment. "I know that you're a gentleman." Jun Lingxuan's expression was complicated, but his voice was filled with certainty. At this moment, Mo Yunjue's voice rang out, "Since you said that this matter was not caused by your martial skills, then do you have a way to resolve Hong Zhuang's current situation?" Following Mo Yunjue's words, Jun Lingxuan's expression suddenly turned ugly. He originally wanted to play dumb and fool Di Beichen into agreeing to it. Then, this matter would have a turn for the better. However, he never thought that this unfamiliar man would actually poke at the heart of the problem with his words. If it was anything else, he could make up some nonsense. However, he had no way of contacting that spirit at the moment. How was he going to resolve this? After noticing the change in Jun Lingxuan's expression, Di Beichen's expression also darkened. "Since there's no way to resolve this, then you can die." Di Beichen did not give Jun Lingxuan any chance to speak. He brandished the severed passion sword and attacked Jun Lingxuan without hesitation. This damned guy should have died long ago. The reason why they were in so much danger and why their family was in such a predicament was all because of this damned Jun family. Long before entering the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, they had already made up their minds. As long as they met any cultivators from the Jun family, they would not show any mercy. As long as these guys were dead, the family's troubles would be much easier to resolve. Di Beichen. Jun Lingxuan could not help but shout out. However, when he saw that the other party had no intention of speaking to him, his heart turned cold. With his cultivation, he might still have a slim chance of survival if he quickly escaped now. But if he left like this, then Shi Tao would definitely not be able to survive. He couldn't do that. At the same time, Mo Yunjue attacked Xiao Sou. This ugly and despicable woman had been humiliating Hong Zhuang in every possible way. He wanted to kill her to avenge Hong Zhuang. Seeing Mo Yunjue attacking her, Xiao Sou couldn't help but ask, "What benefits did Di Beichen give you?" "I can give you double, no, 3 times. As long as you help us deal with Di Beichen, you can ask for anything you want. What do you think?" From her point of view, Mo Yunjue was not a member of the Di family. As long as she gave him enough benefits, it wouldn't be difficult to convince him. However, Mo Yunjue only answered her with the weapon in his hand. He didn't even want to say a word to such an ugly woman. The battle instantly broke out again. Di Beichen did not hold back at all. His murderous aura and blood aura completely exploded. The thick blood aura mixed with the surging murderous aura formed a terrifying aura that completely exploded, enveloping Jun Lingxuan and the other two. Jun Shitao was already seriously injured. Even after taking a pill, his condition did not improve much. At this moment, under the influence of this aura, he could not help but spit out blood. His entire face was extremely ugly. He did not doubt that if he continued to be enveloped by this aura, he would lose his life soon. Chapter 48-76. He was already puzzled when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's terrifying technique. He didn't expect Di Beichen to have such techniques as well. Could it be that the techniques of the lower realms were already unknown to the cultivators of the upper realms? Even though his heart was filled with shock, he wasn't in the mood to think about it carefully. The most important thing now was to protect his own life. Therefore, even though his body was extremely weak, he still tried his best to move away. As long as he could get away from this aura, he would still have a chance of survival. After exchanging blows with Di Beichen, Jun Lingxuan discovered that Di Beichen's cultivation had also reached the nebula realm. This discovery shocked him. He clearly remembered that when Xiao So told him before, Di Beichen was only at the starlight realm. How could Di Beichen reach the nebula realm in such a short time? One had to know that this level of strength was very outstanding even among the cultivators of the upper realms. How did Di Beichen do it? Most importantly, Di Beichen's cultivation had increased so quickly in such a short time. How did he cultivate? Shock and doubt lingered in Jun Lingxuan's mind, but he couldn't think about it carefully. He could only do his best to deal with Di Beichen's attacks. Both of their strengths were about the same. In addition, he was already injured, so his combat strength was affected. If not for the fact that Di Beichen's martial techniques were still slightly lacking, he wouldn't be a match for him at all. Under such circumstances, he would definitely lose his life if he was slightly distracted. Di Beichen's killing intent was no joke. He only wanted to tear him into pieces. Xiao So originally thought that the cultivation of the man in front of her wasn't very high. After all, she had never seen him before. She only knew that he was Bailey Hongzhuang's friend. The reason she remembered him was because he was extremely handsome. Even when he stood beside Di Beichen, he didn't pale in comparison. Handsome men were always easy to remember. Therefore, even if she had only seen him once, she would still remember him clearly. However, after exchanging blows, she realized that her opponent's strength was not to be underestimated. What she found most unbelievable was that her cultivation was actually inferior to his. How was this possible? Xiao So immediately felt that the world was too crazy. Why were these fellows from the lower realms so powerful? This shouldn't have happened at all. After realizing that she was not Mo Yunjue's opponent, Xiao So's mind was racing. Young Master Jun, I have an escape talisman that was given to me by my family. It is my greatest means of survival. However, this escape talisman can only take 2 people away at most, and once I use it, I don't know where I'll end up. The only thing we can be sure of is that we will still be in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. If it doesn't work, then we'll just leave. Xiao So transmitted her voice to Jun Lingxuan. This was her last resort. This escape talisman was an extremely precious treasure to her family. As long as she had this escape talisman, it was no different from having another life. If it wasn't for her identity as the Saint of the Light Maiden, her family would never have given her this escape talisman. She had never thought that she would have to use it here. However, based on the current situation, it couldn't be helped. When Jun Lingxuan heard that Xiao So had an escape talisman, his eyes lit up with joy. Chapter 48-77. The art of runes was an extremely profound lost art, and runes were of great help to cultivators. Among them, the escape talisman was a very precious one. As the name implied, it was a rune used for escape. As long as the cultivator held the escape talisman in his hand, once he crushed it, he could escape to any place. The stronger the escape talisman, the further the escape distance. In the past, the art of runes could be said to be extremely popular, but later on, the art of runes gradually declined, and the number of runemasters became fewer and fewer. Needless to say, runemasters who could make high-grade runes were even rarer. Therefore, the value of high-grade runes became higher and higher. Among them, the escape talisman could be said to be the most valuable rune. Because the escape talisman was tantamount to giving the cultivator another life, its effect was greater than medicinal pills. The escape talisman that Xiao Sou's family gave her was definitely not a low grade, and it was enough to get them out of the current predicament. However, when he heard Xiao Sou say that this escape talisman could only take 2 people away, his heart turned cold again. In this way, it meant that only he and Xiao Sou could leave, and there was absolutely no possibility of Jun Zitao leaving. "No, I can't give up on Zitao," Jun Lingxuan said solemnly. Seeing Jun Lingxuan so persistent, Xiao Sou frowned. Previously, she really didn't think that Jun Lingxuan and Jun Zitao would have such a deep brotherly relationship. If it was an ordinary person, they would have left long ago. After all, no one's life was more important than their own. However, after seeing Jun Lingxuan's loyal and righteous appearance, her favorable impression of him deepened. Perhaps it was because she had seen too many heartless people. Such a loyal and righteous person seemed to be very precious. Previously, she only felt that Jun Lingxuan's conditions were very suitable for her, but now she suddenly felt that this man indeed had his charm. After Bailey Hongzhuang thought of the purification effect of the light energy, she did not hesitate to use it. She didn't know how effective the power of light was on the soul, but she believed that it would have a certain effect on evil cultivators. As Bailey Hongzhuang channeled her radiant force, a look of fear appeared in the evil cultivator's eyes. "You're actually a light attribute cultivator?" The evil cultivator was completely dumbfounded. She had never expected Bailey Hongzhuang to possess the light attribute. This attribute was the most incompatible with her cultivation method. Just based on this point alone, it was impossible for her to successfully possess him. Looking at the sorcerer's surprised expression, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that her method was indeed effective. She had never used her elemental powers before, so it was normal that the sorcerer did not know about it. The most important thing was that this guy paid so much attention to his appearance. He had been studying how his appearance met her requirements, but he didn't even try to understand his own attribute. She was speechless. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang activated her cultivation method, and a steady stream of light energy began to gather in her mind. She wanted to use the radiant force to completely drive the evil cultivator's soul out and take back control of her body. Ever since she started fighting with the evil cultivator, she had already lost control of her body. They had been constantly fighting, and the control of her body was constantly changing. Chapter 48-78. She could not help but worry whenever she thought of this situation. She could only hope that she could expel this damned soul as soon as possible. Ah! The evil cultivator's soul shrieked in agony as the light energy's purifying effect was instantly revealed. She was only in the form of a soul, so the light energy was the most effective against her. Furthermore, she had been using evil methods to strengthen her soul all these years. When she encountered the light energy, she was like a mouse that had seen a cat. She had no way of retaliating at all. "Get out of here, now!" Bailey Hongzhuang's soul suddenly shone brightly under the illumination of the light energy. Her delicate face was as pure and holy as a fairy as it emitted a bright and dazzling light. Under this pure and flawless light, the evil cultivator's soul felt as if it was being roasted on a hot fire. A sizzling sound could be heard. Wisps of black gas began to seep out from her soul. Her spiritual energy was instantly weakened, and even the size of her soul had shrunk. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang could sense that the evil cultivator's pressure on her had lessened. She could not help but feel delighted. It looks like she has the upper hand in this battle. Damn it! The evil cultivator could not help but cry out in alarm. She immediately tried to escape from Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. However, how could Bailey Hongzhuang let her leave so easily? Her sea of consciousness had been severely damaged because of this damned fellow. It was not in her nature to let her leave just like that. Go to hell. Bailey Hongzhuang channeled the light energy with all her might and unleashed the purifying effect to its maximum. Sizzle sizzle. The purifying power repeatedly roasted the soul as if it was trying to purify all the evil in it. Let me go now. The evil cultivator struggled with all her might. The purifying power caused her immense pain, and her expression turned malevolent. You're thinking of leaving after wreaking havoc in my sea of consciousness? Not so easy. Bailey Hongzhuang scoffed icily. A damned fellow like you actually wanted to absorb Xiao Hei's blood essence. Let me purify it for you. Seeing this, the evil cultivator could not help but beg for mercy. Miss, I was wrong. I shouldn't have had such thoughts about you. Please let me go. Why didn't you think that way when you tried to devour my soul? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold and sharp. Even now, she could not help but feel afraid. If it wasn't for the fact that he was of the light attribute and had a restraining effect on it, the consequences would have been unimaginable if the other party had succeeded in seizing his body. She wanted this soul to be completely destroyed here. At the very least, she couldn't let it help Jun Lingxuan in any way, lest it bring more trouble to them. This sorcerer was so vicious. Perhaps all of Jun Lingxuan's evil ideas were related to her. She would only be at ease if he was dead. Noticing that Bailey Hongzhuang was determined and had no intention of letting go, the sorcerer's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she could only beg for mercy. She had spent so much effort over the years to persevere until now. She did not want to disappear just like that. Bailey Hongzhuang ignored him completely. Under the scorching heat, she gradually realized that the black fog in the evil cultivator's black soul was gradually dissipating, and the remaining soul was becoming transparent. Is this soul force? Chapter 4879. Even in her previous life, Bailey Hongzhuang had not done much research on spiritual energy. Hence, she did not understand the situation in front of her very well. However, after some investigation, she realized that this energy was extremely pure. It seemed like it could be absorbed. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang tried to use her spiritual sense to approach the transparent and pure energy. Soon after, she realized that the energy had directly merged with her spiritual sense and strengthened her spiritual energy. For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang felt as if her spiritual sense had encountered a great tonic. It greedily absorbed the energy and continued to strengthen itself. Noticing this, she could not help but feel elated. Ever since she had mastered the art of summoning, she had been eager to increase her spiritual sense as soon as possible. Only by increasing her spiritual sense would she be able to summon stronger demonic beasts. At the same time, she would be able to extend the duration of her battle. However, increasing one's spiritual sense was much more difficult than increasing one's cultivation. Fortunately, she had previously refined pills to increase her spiritual sense, which had helped. However, it was still not enough for her. She never thought that encountering the evil cultivator's possession would result in such a reward. After regaining control of her body, Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly opened her eyes and observed the situation around her. With one look, she realized that Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue had already appeared. At this moment, Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou were resisting their attacks with great difficulty. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that she did not have to worry anymore. Master, are you all right? Baisher had been paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. When it saw that the latter had opened her eyes and reacted, its bright and sparkling eyes immediately filled with joy. Bailey Hongzhuang gently nodded. I'm all right. Don't worry. That's great. Baisher could not hide its joy. It hurriedly shouted at Di Baichen, Master is all right. Di Baichen's attack landed mercilessly on Jun Lingxuan's body. When he thought of his wife being in danger, he couldn't wait to tear this guy apart. Under Di Baichen's ferocious and powerful attacks, Jun Lingxuan appeared to be extremely exhausted. He had already expended a lot of energy in the previous battle, and now he was injured. Coupled with the suppression of his opponent's aura, it was difficult for him to even move. If both sides were fighting at their peak, he would not have been suppressed like this. This feeling made him feel extremely sullen. Suddenly, Baisher's joyful voice could be heard. After Di Baichen heard this voice, his gloomy face suddenly brightened up, like a 10,000-year-old ice melting like a spring breeze. He was distracted and looked behind him. It was only when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang approaching him that he calmed down. Now you're worthless. A sharp light flashed in Di Baichen's eyes. Previously, he had been worried because he wanted to know his wife's current situation. Now, he no longer had to worry about this problem. He no longer had to worry about attacking. When Jun Lingxuan saw Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, a thick sense of astonishment appeared in his eyes. However, he did not feel despair because of this. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. He knew how powerful the soul that had attached itself to him was. As long as she tried to take over his body, no ordinary cultivator would be a match for her. Chu Chu was only in her 20s. How could Bailey Hongzhuang's soul power compare to that of an old monster? Hence, the only possibility was that she had succeeded in taking over his body. Chapter 4880. At that thought, Jun Lingxuan's eyes lit up. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't exist anymore, Di Baichen wouldn't be willing to do anything to her, given his feelings for her. In this way, they had the absolute advantage again. It seems that you've succeeded. Help me kill him, Jun Lingxuan said to Bailey Hongzhuang. Following Jun Lingxuan's words, everyone present was stunned. Their eyes were filled with confusion. They didn't understand what he meant. Xiao Sou and Jun Zitao also looked at Jun Lingxuan in bewilderment. Was he so anxious that he spoke without thinking? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't wait to kill them. Why would she help them? It was even less likely that she would kill Di Baichen. Of all the people, only Bailey Hongzhuang understood what Jun Lingxuan meant. Her eyes turned even darker and colder. This damn guy wanted her to kill Di Baichen. Fortunately, she hadn't been successfully possessed. Otherwise, if Di Baichen was killed by him, it would be the most painful thing. She couldn't imagine that scene at all. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang sped up, and a dazzling smile beamed on her exquisite face. I'll help you. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction, the smile in Jun Lingxuan's eyes gradually deepened. It seemed that his guess was not wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang really didn't exist anymore. With Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, he might be able to completely destroy the Di family. This was simply a heaven-sent opportunity. For a moment, Jun Lingxuan's heart was filled with wishful thinking, as if all the problems could be completely solved in an instant. Di Baichen looked at Jun Lingxuan in confusion. What on earth did you do to my wife? Jun Lingxuan chuckled, and his eyes were full of sarcasm. You'll find out soon enough. After approaching Di Baichen, Bailey Hongzhuang attacked him without hesitation. Wife, what's wrong? The look in Di Baichen's eyes changed. He stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. He couldn't believe that she would attack him. Mo Yunjue was also in disbelief. Hongzhuang, what are you doing? Meanwhile, Jun Lingxuan's smile couldn't be prouder. She's not your wife anymore. She's mine now. As he spoke, Jun Lingxuan looked happily at Bailey Hongzhuang. You should be satisfied now. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. She then slowly walked to Jun Lingxuan's side. This physical body is indeed not bad. I'm very satisfied. Ha ha. Jun Lingxuan laughed. Although this result was beyond his expectations, when he thought about it carefully, there were many benefits. Just as Di Beichen and the others were feeling puzzled and Jun Lingxuan was secretly rejoicing, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly attacked Jun Lingxuan's chest fiercely. Go to hell! Her cold voice was filled with a sharp murderous intent. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and sharp eyes flashed with a dazzling and intimidating light. You! Her fist, which was filled with tyrannical energy, smashed fiercely into Jun Lingxuan's chest and sent him flying. He didn't even have time to react before his injuries worsened. Pfft! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Jun Lingxuan stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. His mind raced, but he couldn't figure out what had just happened. Chapter 48-81. Turning her back on him was the only possibility that Jun Lingxuan could think of. It was likely that this sorcerer wanted to continue staying in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, as Bailey Hongzhuang after successfully possessing her body. That was why she made such a decision. Jun Lingxuan, did you really think that the sorcerer could successfully possess her body? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. Unfortunately, your wishful thinking is wrong. Di Beichen and the rest, who had been in a state of shock and confusion, finally understood what was going on when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. So everything that Bailey Hongzhuang had done earlier was just an act, and had almost scared them to death. However, when they heard the words in her words, they couldn't help but be stunned. Possession. His ink-black eyes were filled with shock and fury. Di Beichen stared anxiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Someone tried to possess your body? Even though he had never experienced it before, he knew that it was an extremely dangerous thing. Once the possession was successful, even if Bailey Hongzhuang was still alive, her soul would no longer belong to her. He never thought that such a situation would occur in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Jun Lingxuan would actually do such a vicious thing to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded gently. That's right. The reason why I didn't react earlier was because a soul wanted to possess my body. Hearing this, Di Beichen and Mo Yunjue finally understood what was going on. Previously, they couldn't figure out what was going on because the cultivators who had come here were all young disciples from the various large families. It was almost impossible for possession to happen to them, so they didn't think in this direction. Now that they understood, they felt a wave of fear in their hearts. How dangerous was that? If Bailey Hongzhuang had not held on, she would have disappeared into thin air. Jun Lingxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. Countless thoughts quickly emerged in his mind. He even suspected that the sorcerer was faking it because Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't possibly defeat the sorcerer. Impossible, how did you survive? Jun Lingxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief. He understood the evil cultivator's strength too well. Even Chen Feng would not be able to survive. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a cold and arrogant smile. His soul energy wasn't strong enough, so I killed him. Impossible. Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but shout, this is absolutely impossible. You can try if you don't believe me. See if you can still contact her. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm. Her gaze was calm, without the slightest bit of worry. Seeing this, Jun Lingxuan tried to call the sorcerer several times but found that there was no response. His face became pale and ashen as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It seemed that he had really lost today. It's just that he couldn't understand how Bailey Hongzhuang was able to resist the possession. Why did all these things that he thought were impossible all happen? Jun Lingxuan, you can rest in peace now. Di Beichen's gaze was cold as the sharp sword in his hand stabbed out. This is the interest I collected from your Jun family. However, you don't have to feel lonely because they will accompany you soon. Miss Xiao, quickly save my elder brother. Jun Zitao couldn't help but shout after noticing that Jun Lingxuan was helpless. Chapter 48-82. When Mo Yunjue saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was safe and sound, He felt relieved and immediately sped up his attack on Xiao So. Only after dealing with these fellows would they be able to have a proper discussion and understand the situation that had just transpired. Xiao So had been struggling under Mo Yunjue's attacks and wished that she could crush the escape talisman as soon as possible so that she could escape. Then, when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance and Jun Lingxuan's special reaction, she felt that the situation might take a turn for the better, so she had been waiting for it. When she saw Bailey Hongzhuang attacking Jun Lingxuan, she knew that if they didn't leave now, they would have to stay here forever. Hence, when she saw Di Beichen attacking Jun Lingxuan, she did not hesitate to crush the escape talisman. She felt very sorry for Jun Shitao, but her escape talisman could only bring the two of them away. She had no other choice. Just as Di Beichen's attack was about to land on Jun Lingxuan's body, a ray of light suddenly flashed and Jun Lingxuan's figure disappeared right in front of him. Seeing this, Di Beichen could not help but stare blankly. A trace of astonishment appeared in his eyes, and then his face became gloomy. It's an escape talisman. During this period of time, he had been studying formations, and because runes were a similar method, he had some understanding of them. Something that could make Jun Lingxuan disappear in an instant could only be an escape talisman. There was no other possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with astonishment. At the same time, Mo Yunjue's voice rang out, "Xiao So has disappeared as well." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and their faces were filled with unwillingness. They had been so close to making Jun Lingxuan stay, but they never thought that he would escape in the end. Damn it, that guy actually got away. The White Lion could not help but curse out loud. That guy had done all sorts of bad things, and the White Lion could not wait to tear him into pieces. Who would have thought that he would actually run away at the last moment? How could the beast not be angry? Bailey Hongzhuang also felt extremely unwilling, but she soon calmed down. Since they have escape talismans in their hands, no matter when we attack, they will be able to escape. The escape talisman itself was very powerful. As long as there was an opportunity to crush it, they would not be able to catch up. Unless they were much stronger than Jun Lingxuan and the others, they wouldn't be able to stop all this from happening. Obviously, they were unable to do so at the moment. Di Beichen nodded slightly. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So had run away. This indeed made him very unhappy, but he also understood that this was unavoidable. Escape talismans are extremely precious. I believe that even they don't have many of them. His eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, rippled with the light of deep thought. They had waited until the very last moment to attack. That must be their only escape talisman. That's right, that escape talisman must have been crushed by Xiao So. Mo Yunjue's cold and hard face carried a deep chill. Previously, she had been paying close attention to Jun Lingxuan's situation. It seems that she has been paying close attention to Jun Lingxuan. The two of them have left, but Jun Zitao has been left behind? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell upon Jun Zitao. Previously, he had been severely injured by her. Now, his situation seemed to be even worse than before.